when she was like in her 80s. Say, you're getting older. And my great-grandmother would say, not getting older, my dear, old. Anyway. People keep asking me, when am I going to retire? Why? Buried in that question is the assumption that everybody must retire at a certain point in time, that I'm running low on gas, that my tank is emptying out. And what I'm going to tell you is my tank is not almost empty, and neither is yours if you're over 70, if you're over 60. It's the age is just a number thing. That's meant for really young people. When you get to be this age, you know that age is not just a number, but it signifies so many wonderful things. I'm over 70. I still practice law. I have started on an app called Whatnot. I've been selling jewelry for the last 4 or 5 years, live shows 3 days a week. And I've started this channel. And I'm here to tell you that the older we get, the more we have to offer. The trajectory goes up, not down. This is not something about selling. It's not a side hustle video. I'm not selling you anything at all. I'm just wanting to express my opinion about getting old. My great-grandmother my mother would say to my great-grandmother when she was like in her 80s, say, you're getting older. And my great-grandmother would say, not getting older, my dear, old. Anyway, so what I'm telling you is that as you get older, you get to do what you want to do. And everything that I'm saying, I am living it now. We are sold a picture of aging as a slow drain, a tank running down toward empty, running out of gas. And that's a lie. You can reinvent yourself. You can stay in the game. That is not burning fuel. That is refilling the tank. It's pulling into the gas station. Every new thing refills that tank, even at $6 a gallon or whatever the hell we're paying for it now. Like, get an electric car, whatever you want to do. Anyway, that's beside the point. So the people that run dry are those, they're not the ones that kept going. They're the ones who parked the car and stopped. I had an Uncle Charlie, who I love very much. He could not wait to retire. When he was a liquor salesman. He was born in 1900. And when he turned he could not wait to turn 65. He turned 65. He sat down in front of the TV. That was it. They took one trip to Europe, which was very nice. But after that, he was done. I mean, how awful. There's so much more, especially today. Anyway, so 65, I don't want to say 65 wasn't handed down from some divine being. It is an actuarial arbitrary number. It's just a number that was picked, and here we are. So people think, oh, retire, I've got to retire, I'm going to be 65. And it used to mean, retiring means that the body is worn out. That was the deal. But at 65, the body is not worn out. At 70, I go to the gym at least 3 nights a week. Well, probably at most 3 nights a week. I get into the office. Well, I get into the office around 10 in the morning, but I don't leave till about 7 at night. I do my law. I practice law. I have many clients, continuing and new clients, continuing clients, old clients. And I do my jewelry shows from my office 2 times a week from there and 1 time a week from home. On Sunday mornings, I have a community chat where people come in online and we just sit and talk. So the real question is, when you get to a certain point, when you get to be 70, it's not, shouldn't I stop? No, you shouldn't stop. It's, what can you start? If you don't want to do what you were doing, what can you start? And there are a million things you can start. So nobody tells you that it is a trajectory. The longer you go, the more wisdom you have gathered. After more years, there's more patterns that you can recognize, more perspective. The wisdom keeps stacking, and wisdom doesn't make us right, but I'm wrong plenty of times. probably more times than I'm right. But so I'm still here, right? Who cares? Uh, I remember when I was in law school, then I was young, or I started law school when I was 38. And I had this professor uh, who was very intimidating. It was in a course called Real Property. And he asked a question, and somebody answered, and I shook my head. I thought the guy was wrong. He goes, Mr. Steiger, why are you shaking your head? I said, I don't agree. And he says, well, what's your answer? And I couldn't tell you what my answer was, but his response, as he was screaming like right in my face, was, well, you're wrong, Mr. Steiger. And I remember I looked up at him and I said, okay. I mean, so did the world end? I don't think so. I'm still here. Anyway, so that was my little bit from law school. I loved law school. God, it was such a great thing. When I started law school, this is not what I was going to talk about. But anyway, I remember what happened was I was 38 years old. I was 37 years old. Sorry. I was 37 years old, and I had a video game store, buying and selling and trading video games and comic books and CDs and stuff like that. And it was fun. And then I saw on TV that this was back in 1993. I saw on TV that there's going to be basically interactive games. You'd be able to play from your cable, whatever it was at that time. I remember I was talking to my father on the phone. I said, oh my God, in 7 years, I'll be 45, 44, 45. I'm going to have to start all over again. What am I going to do? He said, why don't you go to school and become a paralegal? So I said, okay. So I was living in Palm Springs at the time. And I thought, that sounds pretty good. So, because I love to read. And so I just figured as long as I love to read, I might as well do that kind of thing. Anyway, so I found a law school that was nearby that was not like a UCLA or anything like that. I mean, pretty much if you could fog up a spoon and had a degree, you could get in. Okay. But I didn't know. I knew nothing. And so this was in like November. So I called them up and they said, well, do you want to go to do you want paralegal catalog or do you want the law school catalog? Okay. I said, I'd rather have the law school catalog. So they sent me the law school catalog and an application, and I filled it out, and they accepted me. And school started the day after the 1994 earthquake in January, California earthquake. So I went to school. First night, I had a class in community property with this woman, Kathleen Marsland Carter. And she got up there and she was just blithering away. But the second she started talking, I thought, what took me so long? I knew I wanted to be a lawyer. I instantly. So that was it. Anyways, from there. So I became a lawyer then at 42. And I'll just say one last thing about that. And that was, I had an aunt who ultimately lived to be 100. It was my grandmother's sister. And I was very close to her. And at that time, she was in her 80s, I think. And I called her up and I said, what do you think? I used to call her Auntie. I said, what do you think, Auntie? Should I do this? I'll be 42 when I become a lawyer. I mean, it's so old. And she said, you're going to be 42 anyway. And I said, yeah, you're right. So I just did it. I just shut my eyes and I went for it. And I went to law school and I loved every minute of it. And I worked while I was in law school. I worked for my best friend, who was a lawyer. And I learned personal injury through him. And anyway, all that. What was the point? You get the idea. It's never too late. People think in their 30s that it's too late to do anything new. I mean, wow, I'm 70. I start new things all the time. I enjoy learning. So, anyway, so what I would say is wisdom and life gives us perspective. You see how things tend to go. You can kind of read the room a little more. Not always right, but you can read the room. And you survive. You survive being wrong. You survive being right. And the thing is, like, a brilliant 30-year-old doesn't have the wisdom. Doesn't mean that they're not brilliant. Doesn't mean that they're not capable of great things at that age. It's just different when we get to this point. Like, I don't chase like a big house. I've had a big house. I don't care about a big house. I don't have one now. I don't care about expensive cars anymore. I don't care about getting Armani clothes anymore. I don't know what this is even made out of, but whatever the shirt is made out of. It's just, it's just it's nice, it's comfortable. I'm comfortable, quiet life. But the thing I want to say is, like, okay, I'm looking at my notes here. The longer you stay in motion, the longer you keep doing things, the more you have to offer, not less. The curve goes up, not down. There's a great video that I watched many years ago by Jane Fonda called The Third Act. You guys should look it up. I'm sure it's on YouTube. It's fantastic. She talks about what happens when you get old and why it's so important to really keep moving forward. Otherwise, I think, to me, the thought of retiring, to me, seems like the kiss of death. I don't want to do it. And so purpose in life, whatever your purpose is, it doesn't have to be a job, but it has to be, you have to be doing things. It's what keeps you sharp. It's nice to know that people might depend on you, that that gives you kind of a reason to get up in the morning because someone out there might need you for something, or that you've got something you're going to do that day. A client might need, for me in my situation, a client, they're always calling and I'm always happy to talk to them. A buyer might have, from my jewelry on the Whatnot app, might have a problem with a package they received, because we move a lot of jewelry every week. In my life, I never, ever, ever in a million years thought that I would be selling jewelry, ever. It just, like, did not occur to me. I had no interest, and I have no interest in collecting it, but I love beautiful things, and jewelry is really beautiful. So I buy it, I show it, then I sell it. And I sell about 600 pieces every week of jewelry. It's really fun. And that builds up a community as well. I have a certain following of people. I've got like 28,000 something followers on that app that, so I know there's always going to be people in my shows, and it's always going to be fun. It's always going to be interesting because they, on the right side of the screen, people make comments. And so it's really cool. You can, like, watch, and that keeps me going. That gives me such energy. That connection with these people, it just gives me a ton of energy. And you can do the same thing. It doesn't have to be what I'm doing, obviously, but there's so many things to do that contribute to the world and therefore contribute to you. It comes back to you. Well, I need a little sip of coffee here. Hang on, don't go away. So again, those things, that's kind of the fuel where you keep refilling your gas tank. Idleness isn't rest. Real rest happens between meaningful efforts. That's what I think. I've always felt that way. So, like, my own trajectory which I'm going to talk about it in detail in a lot of other videos, but just in general, just so you get kind of an idea of where I'm coming from. So, I'm walking the walk as opposed to just talking the talk. In my 20s, I ran a motion picture film lab, which was family owned. My parents owned it. It was my dad's business. But I ran that, and from that, I ended up leaving that. I went back to school to study psychology. I didn't become a psychologist, though, but I went back to school to study psychology, which I loved every minute of that. I always loved school. Then I went into business. I moved up to I live in Los Angeles, or I'm from Los Angeles, but I moved up to San Francisco, started a business up there. And that was a video game store. I didn't know anything about video games or trading, buying and selling and trading video games. And that was, like, really cool. I'll talk about this some other time. Then from there, I went, like I was telling you, I went to law school. And then as soon as I became a lawyer, I think that was about when eBay came about. I became a lawyer in 1998. I think I discovered eBay in 1999. And because of my video game background, I kind of started doing eBay, even though I was practicing law. So I was kind of doing dual things. And then, because I was the thrill of the hunt, I love finding valuable things. I don't love keeping them. I'm not a hoarder, but I love finding them and sharing them with other people, whether I give them or sell them or whatever. Okay. Then while I was a lawyer, I've been a lawyer for I'm still a lawyer. And in there, I practiced personal injury law, but then I kind of branched out to do some other, not practicing law so much, but getting involved in employment law with a friend of mine who's an employment lawyer. I'll tell you about that in another video. But that was fascinating too, because basically what I would do is he did class action lawsuits. And so we set up a thing where we had two people answering the phone all day long that, because people would call thinking they had a class action lawsuit. Most people did not. Anyway, we would vet those people. And what I did, and doing this was very much from what I learned being in the film lab, like, decades prior to that, is I would fly up every 6 weeks or so to San Francisco and meet with lawyers that handled employment cases. And I would vet those lawyers so that I knew that we could refer these clients to very qualified and very serious lawyers. And so it was so much fun. I mean, anyway, so it was like, kind of, as they say, thinking out of the box, a phrase I'm not crazy about because it's kind of antiquated now, but I was thinking out of the box. I've always done that. Anyway, so having said that, so then from there, and then a few years ago, I started doing Whatnot and buying. I was doing some Amazon stuff. I mean, it was like crazy. I'll tell you all these different stories. Okay, they're not in and of themselves. They're kind of interesting, but like in general, it doesn't mean a whole lot. Anyway, so then, so that's it. So what point being, it's never too late to start something new. I'm doing now this YouTube channel. I don't know what's going to happen with it. I may get one view. I might get thousands of views. I may get 103 views. I've posted 5 videos so far, and I'm doing podcasts with other resellers for their journey to talk about their journeys in reselling, because I think a lot of people are interested in that kind of thing. Anyway, so the reality is nothing was ever wasted. Every chapter builds on itself. It compounds, and you can't waste. It's never wasted. None of it is ever wasted. Having said all of that, there are some people, for some reasons, maybe you should slow down. Maybe there are health reasons that you should slow down. Your body just says, no, I can't do this anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. So this is not a lecture. I'm not shaming anybody that doesn't want to do other things in their 70s or their 80s. My mother's 93, and she'll say to me, "Oh, 80 just sounds so young to me." That's what she says. In fact, I'll say somebody was 85. She goes, "Oh, it sounds good to me." So it's all perspective. Anyway, so what I was going to say? Oh yeah, other thing, of course, practically speaking, I'm looking at my notes. I'm not too proud to tell you I've got notes. From a practical perspective, some people can afford to retire. That doesn't mean you should. I'm just saying you can afford to retire. But some people can't afford to retire. Their money may not outlast them. And you want your money to still be there when you're, so you want your money to outlast you. So, you have to prepare properly. And some people have not been able to do that for whatever reason. And so people like that, if you're one of those people, you might not retire because you can't retire, or Social Security just isn't enough, or whatever your investments are isn't enough if you have investments. So you might want to, but maybe you don't want to keep doing what you're doing. So maybe you want to see if you can keep doing what you're doing for a while so you still have the income coming, but start doing something a little bit on the side, start a little tiny thing and see if you can build it up. Everything takes time. Nothing happens overnight, ever. I've learned that there is no pie in the sky. Those people are anomalies. When somebody, overnight success, I don't think there is such a thing. I mean, maybe, but that's one out of how many gazillion people. It's like how many people win the lottery, right? Everything requires focus. It requires energy. And the journey is what is so wonderful. The destination, yeah, whatever. The journey is what is, for me, the journey, all my journeys have been wonderful. And that's where all the stories and the wisdom and life comes from. So I don't know if this has made any sense to anybody. I hope it has. If you're over 70, if you're over 60, if you're over, I don't care how old you are. I'm focusing on over 70 because that's what I am. But this could apply to anybody. But if you're over 70 or whatever number, what's the one thing that keeps telling you you're too old to start something new? Tell me. Put it in the comments below. I'll read them, and hopefully I will comment on them or feature some of those in in other videos. So that's it. I'm Lowell. My tank is, I don't know if it's full, but we're at least at like 3/4, and fill it up a little more. I'll do a little more work on something else. It'll go down a little, then I'll fill it back up and do something else. You get the idea. Okay, so I'm not done. You're not done. None of us are done. Oh, what's going on here? No, don't do that. Don't do that. Can you believe this? Oh, there we go. So I'm going to end this recording now. I don't know if it's any good or not, but we'll see. Okay, bye. Thanks for watching. Oh, and whatever. What do they say? Subscribe and like, or don't like.